Welcome to the Integration Station. I'm Naturally Ashley, your host, here to guide you down the rabbit hole into the world of psychoactive plants, frogs, and fungi. Good morning, you beautiful souls, and welcome to the Integration Station. I'm Naturally Ashley, your host. I've got a special guest here today. I really want you to check this girl out. Her name is Crystal, but some of you may also know her as Yooper Jane. So on today's show, she's going to talk to us about the uniqueness of psychoactive plants, frogs, and fungi. Also fill us in on some of the education that she's learned over time of cultivating mushrooms and a bit about her journey to get there. She's also going to talk about mushrooms in general and microdosing and what she means by we all win with entheogens. So without further ado, I'll pass her to you.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Hello, you beautiful souls, and welcome back to the Integration Station. I'm Naturally Ashley, your host, here with a special guest, Yooper Jane. Some of you may know her from our network. Others, you are in for a treat today. So without further ado, I'm just going to pass over to Crystal, or Yooper Jane. I already did it. Anyways, oh my god, we literally just changed the name so that we would have this alias. There I go, wrecking it 2 seconds in. Anyways, what I'm going to do is pass over to you, Yooper Jane, and you can share your story and, you know, what inspired you to get into some of this work. I'm really excited to share you with all of our listeners here on Pace Radio and CBG TV. I think what you're doing is absolutely amazing. So, yes, here you go.
Hi there. Thanks so much for having me today. And, feel free to call me Yooper Jane or Crystal. I swear everybody has their own little nickname for me in this work, right? And so it's been such a nice opportunity to take some time today to get to tell you about who I am and why I have landed here and in this work and why I love to do it, truly. So I guess where to begin, right? Where to begin? I started this work in 2019 when I started coming off of psych meds. And so I've been diagnosed as major depressive. I've been diagnosed or labeled as ADHD, PTSD, and also bipolar disorder. So, I've had these plethora of descriptions put to me, and I've been treated with numerous medications to no avail. I wasn't living a happy, fulfilled life on these medications. And so I started doing some research onto how I could holistically maybe heal my mind. And I mean, people kind of thought I was insane for thinking there was like a holistic approach to being, right? And being not just your standard being, right? Like deviant being, like we have this struggle, right? This cross we bear, especially being labeled bipolar. So I thought that I was going to be condemned. Like I had to be on these medications for the rest of my life. I started having like really bad side effects because I was taking one, as an injection, and then it was causing me to have like arthritis in my hip bones from having the injection every month. And so, you get to this point where you decide, is this the life I'm happy living? And like, the cost of the medication too was astronomical. It was like $1,300 for an injection a month. So, the stress that goes around having to rely on even medication that you don't know if there's going to be a shortage ever on. All these things led me here. And so I started doing research and I changed my diet. That was the very first thing I changed. I started eating more fiber, a lot of vegetables, drinking more water. And that alone, and, messing with my sleep, like by that, I mean actually sleeping, right? And so, you know, rest and food were the very first things I started with. And then I started like peeling back these layers of health and like going to the gym. And then I met someone who grew mushrooms. And he was like, hey, you know, like you should try these. Like they'll really help you heal your mind. And I guess I had taken mushrooms before in my youth when I went to college, maybe a decade and a half ago. But, you know, that experience was quite different from this one. And so I had 7 grams of fruit and I was at a party, right? And I just remember feeling like alive for the very first time, like happy to be social. I felt like I was truly listening to people and people were truly listening to what I was saying. I felt like this unity, you know, like we were all kind of together in this life and we're all facing these things together and we're supposed to help each other by, you know, being human and being authentic to the human experience, which is sharing this stuff, right? Like sharing the negative side of life more. So, you know, I started opening up to people while I was on these mushrooms about what I was going through. And, you know, everybody was kind of like, it's working already. Like, just look at you. And, so yeah, I was feeling for the very first time in what felt like years. And so, I went on this amazing microdose protocol. Stamets stacks is what I had my friend blend me. But it was like a heavier micro since I was on so many psych meds, about 500 milligrams of cubensis, and I would throw it back in a tea or take a capsule every you go 2 on and then 2 off when you're following this protocol. So it was about 20 to 22 capsules a month. And then I would do a 30.
Oh, sorry to interrupt. But this stack, for anybody who is unfamiliar with the Stamets stack, this is with niacin and lion's mane mushrooms as well. And you said you were still taking your medication the same time as starting the microdose, or no?
I was doing them concurrently because, like, when I was doing my research, I found that if you start taking the psilocybin, even though it might be like sub-threshold that you're not like noticing an apparent difference or a psychoactive response, but like through journaling, I noticed over time that like my sleep was improving. I was getting more rest. I didn't have to take like the trazodone that they gave me to fall asleep, right? So like the medications kind of slowly started falling off. And like the way I kind of explain that is because like psilocybin and lion's mane, they both like make this amazing buffer, you know, like a brain buffer. And so it's actually helping facilitate all of this communication from different parts of your brain and like basically awakening these not dead parts up, but they haven't been enriched with, they haven't been oxygenated, right? They haven't been given life. And so cubensis, especially with lion's mane, helps this neurogenesis happen. And so I finally felt confident enough to just pull the plug and come off all of them at about month 3. So I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about the medications I was on or anything like that, or if it's relevant.
I'm cool with it, but it's if you find it's relevant or you think it's going to be helpful, definitely. It's up to you. Yeah. So like I kind of started with like, I got off of the Adderall first. Like Adderall was really challenging to be quite honest, because of the wakefulness, right? Like that component to life. I feel like anytime you come off of psych meds, you get really, really tired or you have trouble sleeping. You know, it's one or the other when I talk to people. And this may even be happening to you already if you're on the medications as like a side effect of them. So, you know, start linking things, like notice
your behaviors, notice like your symptoms over time, and truly keep like a journal or keep a log, like even on your phone. Because, a lot of people will say, oh, the microdosing isn't working, or I don't really feel like it's helping. And I tell people that just because you can't see it, right, doesn't mean that it's not helping, right? And so at least give microdosing 30 to 60 days before you like give it, kick it out as not working, is what I ask people to consider. But I do remember feeling that same annoyance, like around, like, honestly, I guess like a lot of people are looking for an instant, change, right? And it's because many of us are feeling so shitty. And so naturally, so you want to have this instant relief.
And culture today has us on this dopamine kick. We don't realize how much of a drug that is, and all that culture feeds us to feed into that. It's natural.
Oh, yeah.
We've been born wanting that instant gratification. But this is the difference between what culture's feeding us and what psilocybin does, because psilocybin and a lot of psychedelics are going for the serotonin. That's the gratification over long term. That's the difference between the instant gratification of the brain and that happiness chemical that's built in your gut.
Did you know that they actually discovered LSD before they did serotonin?
Really? No,
Yeah.
I did not.
Yeah, I don't know. I know that's kind of a red herring, a little bit out there, but that just jogged that thought, and I felt like I should share that with you because,
cool. Yes, thank you.
dude, when I read it in this book, I'm reading this book right now, and I highly recommend it. It's called Psychedelic Medicine: The Healing Powers of LSD, MDMA, Psilocybin, and Ayahuasca by Dr. Richard Lewis Miller. And anyway, there's like 4 chapters, and the LSD chapter is just chock full of experts and fun facts, I'll say.
Cool. Yeah, that's so exciting.
But, it really kind of gives us something to talk about, because, like, if you think about them discovering LSD, and I mean, they had patented it like in 1914, but like it sat around doing nothing for years, right? Because they didn't even know what serotonin is. Like, you get what I mean? Like, think and imagine back to a time, right, where like we're trying to understand human behavior and we don't even know about neurotransmitters, right? So like, this is kind of relevant to our talk because like, when I came off of medicine, a lot of people told me that I would not be able to regulate my imbalance, right? It's a condition, to that I say, every day is truly a winding road, okay? I have mental health issues. So I feel like when I was not being so open and not being so honest and like kind of hiding from the fact that I am different, right? I wasn't living an authentic life, right? Does that make sense? Yeah. And so now that I'm like accepting these finer pieces of me and like honing them through this work, because sharing mushrooms with other people helps me heal. And it's because I do so much research into people's unique situations, because like my roots are in a research lab, and I worked at Indiana University when I was in college by a National Institute of Health sponsored lab called a Biobehavioral Alcohol and Drug Research Laboratory. And we did mostly survey research, for psychedelics, because Indiana is very conservative. But it was still valuable information to see people wanted to try mushrooms. They wanted to try cannabis. They wanted to try LSD. And I mean, I was 18 years old thinking to myself, this is crazy, right? And it's because we're indoctrinated to believe that like only the government can fix us, right? Only experts can give us what we need to be saved.
And this goes right back to religion. It's kind of always been like that. It's like, you can't eat from the tree of knowledge because then you'll be just like us. No, instead we need to keep you under our control. And
they're
like, it's been, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, they're so gatekeeping. They're gatekeeping this. And yeah, so this book that I'm reading talks a lot about that. And it talks a lot about it from like different perspectives around the world, right? Of different countries and like people working in different countries, because I didn't know this, but in Europe, they actually allowed LSD research for a much longer duration after we canceled it here, right? And put it on bad list and scheduled it. But they were still doing this research up until like 1981, I think. So, you know, there's enough people in Europe who were like, they obviously did this as a response to American policy, you know, and how that affects the world and how that affects research and publications and data that's collected, right? So, you know, we have this fear mongering, right? And so people still don't exactly know about the utility behind cubensis, specifically. I think mushrooms are a wonderful starting entheogen for people. So that's why I'm mostly referring to mushrooms, and it's mostly the bulk of what I do. I do work with a lot of cannabis too, because I believe CBD and CBG just help uplift my spirit. So I do a lot of work with that. And that's where you
started too, was with cannabis or with mushrooms?
Cannabis, yes. Okay, so yeah, I started cultivating first in cannabis, and led me to here, right? So I'm now cultivating all sorts of herbals and plants and doing all kinds of fun things. And so it really does lead you other places. And everybody's entheogen package, I call it, it looks different, you know, like you might be someone who really likes LSD and benefits from mescaline, right? And then I might be someone who really benefits from cannabis and mushrooms. But either way, like, it's about us having the human right to choose our healing.
Yeah.
And it not to be shoved down our throat to support chemicals that aren't organic, you know, that truly alter our brain chemistry for the rest of life as we know it. Honestly, I mean, they have lots of research studies going on about people being on SSRIs, and one of the most recent studies that just emerged this week was about how cubensis was like just as valid as escitalopram. Like, it was just as effective in the study as cubensis. And so another study that was just released was talking about how even one dose of an SSRI changes your brain chemistry, you know, for any duration. They don't know if it's permanently, right? Because it's longitudinal, more longitudinal research that needs to be done. But it's terrifying to think that one dose of an SSRI could trigger you into some kind of mental health issue. And that was what the article was even talking about in the discussion. And so I think more people need to be aware about what they're putting into their bodies, and about people just going to the doctor and, you know, getting mislabeled as depressed and then getting put on an SSRI for the rest of time and never actually fixing the problem or getting to do the self-work, right? Because those medications, they block the action of the 5-HT2A receptor. So they block and inhibit the neurotransmitters from moving through the brain. And so you don't see these major connections firing the way you do on someone who's not taking these medications. So if you're after a more psychedelic experience, you can have it. It's just not going to happen until you've been off of those meds for, I would honestly say, 3 to 6 months, but it looks different for everybody.
I like how you mentioned that you were working with them while you were on it, because it's something that I think a lot of people are scared of. And when I'm doing clarity calls and stuff, sometimes I'm talking to people who've been on them their entire lives. You know, they're in their 60s and been on it for 40 years. And it's like, you were really there from the beginning. And, you know, there's so many other alternatives out there that are way more natural without the side effect. You know, but they're scared. They're scared to get off, and they're scared about mixing them together. But here's the thing, you know, that I've even seen with a lot of clients, and that's that it actually helps with the withdrawal symptoms. It helps with the brain zaps. It helps with all of these things that end up happening. And I remember when I was put on medications, you know, I was diagnosed with a lot of stuff, but my like OCD and I didn't even get the anxiety diagnosis. I got the OCD diagnosis, and I had to find out for myself that that's triggered by anxiety. I had to do all that work myself. My mom, though, she always said no to the medications, no to the ADHD meds, no to the special classes. She didn't want any of that. So, you know, she'd rather put up with me being a rebel, knowing that it would pay off in my life. So I'm really grateful for that.
God bless her. That's amazing.
Yeah, I did end up going on medication once when my dad passed away, and I went into the doctors and I was a mess. It's regular grief, okay? Like, that happens. I was allowed to be sad, and nobody ever told me I was allowed to be sad. They gave me drugs, and they're like, here, take these. I did not leave my house or anything. It spiraled me down deeper than anything else. If I would have just dealt with what was going on, or told that I'm allowed to be sad, like if somebody would have just held me or like said it's okay, that would have been way different. Instead, it was like, medication, here, you need this. The moment I made a decision, I don't even know what it was that triggered me, but something triggered inside of me and said, this isn't right. And I got off of everything cold turkey, which was really dangerous, and I did experience the withdrawals and stuff. But I went out and I got a job, and then I like started going for walks, and then I got myself better in that way. You know, it's good to know that there's other things that you can do. And I like that you mentioned working with it. If going cold turkey sucked, and being on them sucked. But what you're suggesting here and what you've done is work with it to reduce those withdrawal symptoms, to reduce the brain zaps, which is a huge side effect I get all the time. Also, like puking and diarrhea and all these other things that just suck.
The gastro stuff. Oh, that's the worst. Yeah. I would say the sleep, the gastric stuff, and those two, man, they really prevent people from coming off, you know? I mean, and reasonably so. Who wants to be uncomfortable like that, right? But the payoff is so worth it. And I guess for me, my experiences on Cubensis, like, not only do I need, like, you'd think that my tolerance would be so high, right? Like, that I'd need so much now to even have an experience, right? After taking a heavy micro for months on end, right? But the truth is like, I can have like a full-blown psychedelic experience now at 1 gram, which is like, holy crap, right? And so to like be able to measure it just by grams needed, right, to trigger psychedelic visuals or that feeling of unity, it's my path of spirituality deepens now. And I do have bad days. I do have good days. I have okay days. I'm still, right? And like you said, we are allowed to feel those things. I grew up and, you know, we all have our situations where we grow up, but it programs us, right? And so a lot of my programming that I'm undoing is knowing that I'm the love that I need, right? And so always making sure that, like, I remind myself of that daily. I mean, even through taking my mushrooms, like setting an intent, right? Like, and that might look like, for me, today I want to see more into my own heart's intent, right? Or today I really want to just enjoy my time with me and my children, right? And I make it almost like a ritual, and it's just like a beautiful, uplifting experience for me. And so I normalized this for my children even, because it's not like it's altering me to the point where like they're like, mom's weird, like she's on drugs and like needs help, right? Like America would program you to think, right? But it's oh, we're having a really good day. Magic. You know, like they know that earth is magic, and like the earth makes medicine, and you don't need a prescription bottle to find healing. And so you know, it made me laugh so hard because like I was dehydrating some mushrooms like maybe 2 weeks ago, and I'm just putting them on the tray, you know, and my son's watching me, and he's learning how to talk right now, one of them, and he goes, mushrooms. And it just was the cutest, most innocent thing, you know. And it's like he doesn't even have like an interest in them other than this is just mushroom, you know, like, and that's the way it should be for everybody. It's not poison, it's not dangerous, it's not, you know. Yeah, we've been programmed to look at the mushroom wrongly.
Absolutely. A lot of things wrongly, I think, but you know, I find it so curious that even that beautiful movie by Paul Stamets and Dennis McKenna of the fantastic fungi, it's in the occult section on Netflix. You don't find that in the health. Yeah, it's not in the health section, it's in the occult section.
Thanks for that laugh today. I appreciate that so much.
It's crazy.
Dude, oh man, it's gonna blow their mind when they find out that we're part of, you know, like fungus. We're part of fungus, like, right? They're
that's what too. Like, I didn't understand what's with like all the antibacterial stuff. It's like we are bacteria. You know, when I was in nutrition school, we learned so much about gut health, and I was realizing, I'm like, that's what we are. So what, you know, why with the antibiotics? Why with these funguals, and why with the, you know, all the pesticides? What, you know, that's killing parts of us. And if that's what we are, shouldn't we be embracing that? And if there is a war of good and bad bacteria, then why wouldn't we build our army with good bacteria? You know, why is it kill all of the bacteria? I just don't understand that.
Oh my gosh, I know. I think that's like we could have a whole other talk on that too, because I mean, fungus and like magic mushrooms, like they provide you with that probiotic help. And so, you know, it uplifts your microbiome in your gut, which is your second brain, right? And so there's serotonergic receptor sites in your stomach. And so a lot of people are really, really surprised to hear that, but you are what you eat. And so
eat magic.
Whatever. Yeah, eat the magic. Be the magic.
Okay, Crystal, I'm going to cut to commercial right now. That way our sponsors can share their special message with us today. And then we'll come back in just a few minutes, all right?
All right, awesome. I'm going to get a drink.
Bye, love.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
Growing your own vegetables, flowers, or even medicinal plants can be a challenge without the right equipment and proper know-how. At BMA Hydroponics, not only are they your urban horticultural experts and suppliers, but their staff holds the customer's needs paramount to making a sale. Family-owned with decades of experience and knowledge, they offer free advice in person, by phone, or email. BMA Hydroponics wants to ensure you have the advice you need, which is why you'll find tips and tricks on different ways to grow, like wick, ebb and flow, drip, or aeroponic system, as well as other helpful links at bmahydroponics.com. If you can't find what you're looking for, just let them know, and they'll do everything they can to get what you're looking for. At BMA Hydroponics, each staff member also possesses a federal exemptee MMAR license, making their strong suit empathy, experience, and dedication to their customers. Because when you know how to grow, you'll have results that make you proud. BMA Hydroponics in Belleville, Ontario. Visit bmahydroponics.com.
Let's share PACE everywhere. That way it can help create peace. People everywhere advocating cannabis education. CP operates a medicinal cannabis signing clinic. If you want to grow your own medicinal cannabis and are located anywhere in Canada, then I'd like to suggest that you give them a call. They can be reached at 1-613-967-9888. That's 1-613-967-9888, and grow on with CP.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
PACE Radio is the People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio Network.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
Welcome back. All right, so we're talking about the wonderful benefits of serotonin in our gut, of mushrooms, of all of this good stuff. Where do you want to go from here, Crystal?
All right, so we've been talking about mushrooms for a while. I love mushrooms, obviously, so if you have not tried any entheogens, definitely recommend starting with mushrooms. Very friendly, and you can dose and adjust it, accordingly. So if you have any questions about where to begin or, things like that, you could definitely message me or, chat anytime about that. I'm working on a bunch of genetics, and so I'm really excited about that. I've been cubensis crazy for the last 2 years. And so I'm branching out now into some other wood lovers and Panaeolus cyanescens, and then Panaeolus azurescens, and then Psilocybe mexicana. So those are the new ones that are up on the chopping block. And I'm really looking forward to uplifting my micros. These are different tryptamine profiles that we're seeing. I know there's a lot of people who work in mushrooms who will say a cube is a cube is a cube is a cube. And I've kind of made my life's work about figuring that out. Is a cube a cube a cube a cube? And my I guess opinion on the matter is that it's not. They're very different, despite being the same. They have the same composition, like profile, but they don't have the same percentages. So when I say that, I'm talking about psilocybin, psilocin, and baeocystin, specifically. Those are 3 of the tryptamines that are in magic mushrooms, and mainly they uplift magic mushrooms to be magical. And so I've been using these lab test strips by Miraculix Labs, and they test for potency. And so I've just been playing with conditions here, different recipes for agar, and a lot of just like playing in my lab. I kind of feel like a little bit of the crazy chemist lady, because like the extent of it is me mixing things like potato flakes, honey, and distilled water. So don't get crazy over there, guys. I'm not doing too much science. I just call myself a kitchen witch, for the most part. And I just kind of rip and roll that way. So I know people joke with me a lot, but they'll be like, does your like abuela like whisper to you? Like, how do you know these recipes, right? And truly, I just feel like, I'm going to say it all out, guided by the mushroom, okay? I know that sounds crazy, but I really just, I feel it, and I just follow my heart. And so I Another entheogen that really does a lot of heart opening is LSD, which we touched on earlier. It's very very uplifting. So I like to say people who try LSD are like, it's more in like PTSD situations, kind of the way MDMA is useful in PTSD. It gives you more space to feel these emotions and like observe them, but not dissociate from them, like to kind of see them and be with them and not be able to escape them, but it be okay, right? And so I know a lot of people have had a lot of questions on LSD lately. A really good documentary that I just watched was called The Sunshine Makers on Prime. Have you seen it?
No, but I'm going to now.
Yes, highly recommend. It is so good. So, the Brotherhood, who was creating LSD in the 70s, this is about, the two main dudes who basically were doing that work, and it is exploring their wild ride. And the thing that stood out to me the most was how many other people and like great, brilliant minds that they connected with. Entheogens really do have a way of like presenting themselves to you. I remember one time I offered someone a Lucy gel, a dear friend of mine, and she was like, I can't say no, it's presenting itself to me. And I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, that's like a thing. That's like a thing, Crystal. Like, LSD comes looking for you, and Lucy comes looking for you. And I was like, oh, okay. And so, maybe Lucy will come looking for you, right?
Yeah. I feel many medicines come looking for me. I have a pretty docked apothecary where I am, and some of the stuff I still have not even touched. Yeah, a lot of it is gifted to me, and I'll have dreams or something that say, but I also believe in like everything in moderation. I personally want to sit and work with it and absorb everything that it has. I want to squeeze the lemon for all it's worth. And but when a medicine does come to me and I do go all in, it's definitely a calling. I've never forced anything. I've been working with the medicines for 20 years now, and I never had to force it. It was always just there, and it was always a choice to choose that over some of the other things that are out there. Like I did cocaine too. I don't like it. It's not my thing. Coca in South America, I loved it. But
I was over here like,
yeah, there's a difference. Lately, it's the last couple of years, it's been the Cambo frog. When that presented itself to me, it was so strong, there was no denying it. And I've wailed, like wailed like never before when its callings have come through. It was just so intense.
Wow. You know what? For me, that has been Shanga in this season of life. Shanga has been like the cosmic masculine DMT force, is what I say. And it's loud lessons, loud truths. And I like it because Shanga with the MAOI, like it really prolongs the experience for me to where I can bring back information. Like I can go there and like find the lesson, right, and bring it back and kind of implement it into my life through like integration practices like meditation or journaling and things like that. But if I do like DMT crystals or like and not DMT crystals alone, it's a little touch and go for me. It's too quick. It's not as navigable for me. So yeah, like I definitely agree with you. I think that these entheogens seek us back almost. Yeah. And it's like a lock and key mechanism, just like, receptor sites and receptors in your body. It's like we come wired for these things. So, to be told that we shouldn't try them or like believe in them or like know that they have some potential in modern medicine, like I guess that's where I start seeing the fabric come unraveled, right? Like there's obvious other indicators of that, but I really think that they're starting to run into a wall. Like they can't lie to us anymore. Like there's too many of us waking up to like the lie, and it's okay too. Like that if you can't wake up from the lie, or like if you don't want to, rather. And like I want to say that because there are some people out there who like have to believe in this matrix, and like for it to work, like we need all kinds of our minds to like make all of this work, and we have to respect everyone's healing. So like if Sally up the road got the jab, right, like let's respect her because she thought that was best for herself, right? But if Sue up the road didn't get the jab, let's not condemn her. Let's not, throw her in the sand and say, hey, poor Sue, like she's, lost forever. Because it's, for me, when I kicked this can for a long time of, I don't want to ever have a manic break. I don't want to ever have a psychotic break again. I'll tell you what, I kept like this like reserve bag of fucking psych meds in my basement for like the first 2 years. Because I was
even still good that long after.
I'm laughing so hard because I just threw it away like maybe 3 months ago. Even though I've been off of them forever, like it was still that cord, like me being tied to the matrix, because like for whatever reason I believed that I was gonna need them again, and like need them badly. So here we are, and I don't say that this path is for everybody, but I do know that this way I can be awake. I can like not sleep my day away. I cannot gain 100 pounds in a year and cause myself cardiac problems from trying to heal my mind. I'm here to play with my children every day. Like, I mean, some of these medications have death as a risk or a side effect, y'all. So like, I just got to a point where I was like, I have to take my chance off of it because I'm not living this way. And so if this resonates with you, I guess find a community, find other people who are trying to fix themselves in natural, holistic ways, and find a me who's being loud about it, because I'm being loud about this message for a reason. Like it saved my life. Like I wouldn't be here if I didn't get saved by entheogens and plant medicine. And so, we are plants too. We are just fancy people plants, and we have needs too. And if something is calling you, honor that inner voice, because I truly believe like just like plants kind of call to bees, right? It's like the entheogens are seeking us back, and we seek them too without knowing it. So
yeah, it's so true, Crystal. And there's this thing called nutrigenomics. So essentially it's where the food that we're consuming activates our genes and sends us information from those before us. So when you think about this like in a religious sense, it could be the divine within the plants that's coming through and activating the divine within us. When we're thinking about it as nutrition, we can be thinking that the food that we're eating is giving us the information from our ancestors to be able to have our body function without us consciously having to have that conversation. But it's also why we get cravings. The difference is that a lot of this food-like products or these Franken foods, they're more on the dopamine center. There's been scientists that have been paid lots of money to create this special concoction in their lab of fat, sugar, and salt so that we're addicted and it hits the dopamine. But the real information comes from whole foods and whole plants. And maybe a lot of these mental health issues are because we have a nutrition deficiency.
Oh my God, yes. oh my God, like what you said about, food, like being in the dopamine reward center, like I am a foodie. And by that, I mean, I love healthy food, like everything. I'm a little bit bougie. I have to scratch make everything these days. It's been pretty terrible, but it's not terrible. And so, I'm like feeding my brain, I say. But the proof is in the pudding. Like my children's behavior, even since like getting off of Red 40 and like other sugars and stuff. Like, I mean, I'm bad. We still have candy and sugar, here and there, but like appreciating it. Like, I mean, you can even see the behavior like immediately after eating it is different. Like, it's just, it's wild. So, diet is totally behind this rise of mental health. And I don't know if you've ever seen this movie. It's called Soylent Green. Have you seen Soylent Green?
No. No, you've got to. I need to like take a list of all of this. I can do my own research.
I'm just such a like conspiracy queen, I guess. But like at the same thing, I'm just a sci-fi lady, okay? Like I grew up on 1984 and like all that kind of thing.
Oh, it's great. That movie scares the shit out of me still. My
Dude,
God.
Then don't watch Soylent Green. Don't watch Soylent Green. But the premise I have to tell you, the premise in the film is that the people don't know what they're eating, right? But when they find out, it's a problem, right? So like, I remember being like 13 or 14 years old in 8th grade watching this film, and like, I'm like, why are we watching this creepy ass film? All right, spoiler alert. If you're going to watch Soylent Green, don't watch past this point. Are you going to watch it?
I'm going to watch it. You said it's on Prime?
All right, we'll catch up then. We'll catch up then on another podcast about Soylent Green.
Oh, no, it's sharing. You got it now.
Okay, so the crux of this is that they have an overpopulation issue and they can't feed. I mean, everything's over-farmed. Sound familiar? Right?
Very familiar.
Nutrients are depleted in the soil stores. So they create this fixer-upper food, right? And they give everybody a certain per diem of this food. Basically, the food is people. They're like recycling the dead bodies into food, and they're feeding the people Soylent Green. They call it Soylent Green. And so these people don't even know that they're eating the people until a man breaks into the freaking facility and sees what's going on. And so anyway, you see stuff like that at 13 and you think to yourself, wow, someone had to be on drugs to write this film. And then you fast forward to 33 and you're like, oh boy.
Yeah. Well, look at Bill Gates right now. He's doing the like poop water. Here, have some water, but it's made out of human feces. Like, gross.
This is
no, thank you.
Like, Jesus, I'm at a point now where like I'm literally like farming in my basement, like growing produce. Yep. Like, I am like trying to buddy up with like my local farmers and like buy from them because like, I mean, I'm in America, so like they are really doing some weird stuff with the food here.
Yeah. Yeah, same here in Canada. And we do it too. I contribute to a lot of farms. I buy seeds every year, and while I do gardens wherever I am, I also spread the seeds to other people's gardens. And I'm like, eventually, whenever I do have my own place, right now I like to travel too much. I like going from place to place. But eventually, when I have my forever home, everybody else will be established, and they can bring extra stuff over to me, and I'll be set up.
I love that. I'm a wanderer myself, so like I've lived here, there, everywhere, and I have like a 3-year shelf life places, and then I like hobble along somewhere new, and I'm nearing that point here in the UP, so we'll see.
Maybe we'll see you in Canada or vice versa.
I mean, I'm already north enough, you know. If I had a skill set they wanted, I would apply.
You do the mushrooms. Come on.
Right?
Well, mushrooms and cannabis, and we've got cannabis legal here now. There's a lot of our sponsors are actually growers and.
Oh,
stuff,
wow.
but,
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I think it's so cool that you have a sponsored podcast and like, you know, like you have backing and support from people who are doing this work. Like, that's so cool. Good for you.
Yeah, I was happy to be brought on board, that's for sure, because these guys, they were activists in that field long before myself. And my mom, too. My mom got herself off of 10 years of heavy opiates. The doctors had her on misdiagnosis after misdiagnosis, and one of the hardest medications they had her on was fentanyl. I remember growing up and seeing her with multiple patches on her because it still wasn't enough, because what happens is you build up an immunity to this, but your body still can't take it, even though, you know, it's not working or doing its job, and then you put on more and more. It's a crazy system that they had. But anyways, she spent a decade on the medications and then a decade off, and she was a huge activist in the cannabis field. She was one of the first people that opened up a cannabis cafe before it was even legal. So she just had, you know, for such a tiny woman, she had huge man balls.
I love her. I love her. That's great. I love her. That's wonderful, because like we need those kinds of minds and like brazen people, because I guess I've been asked this question a lot, and it's like my boldness kind of is either exciting to people or it's very off-putting, right? And so to the off-putting ones who find that way, I say, you know, this is just who I am, right? Like, and so like, would you hide from it or would you embrace it, right? Like, it's a much funner ride when you are being authentic, and like, I'm living proof that you can come off of medicines and like be okay, you know? And like, if you find those nuances in the matrix, like the outliers that you don't see every day, like those are the ones who truly inspire and help make change. Like, I can't tell you how many other moms with postpartum depression like have reached out to me and been like, Crystal, thank you for sharing that you went through this too. Thank you for sharing that, like, there's a way out. Like, thank you. And so the more thank yous I heard from people who were just too scared to be authentic, like, it makes me just want to be even louder, because it gives other people their voice. They find their voice through that. So, yeah.
And we need people like you using their voice, you know, what you've been through, your story. It's so powerful and it resonates with so many people. You know, I love what you said too about just being a kitchen witch. It's like, out of all of the identifiers that the medical system wanted to give you, and out of all the identifiers that I'm sure family and friends and even strangers have given you, the one that you resonate most with is just, I'm a simple kitchen witch. Like, I just do my thing.
It really is. It's, man, it's brought back alive my inner child, you know? Like, that inner child who was mixing potions in like the grass with mud, and but that it really it awakens back in the adult, like how magical we see the earth as children, right? Yeah. And somewhere along the line we lose that, and we can't lose sight of that.
Yeah. Bring it back. Kids are great at that. I know you're a mom of 5, so
yeah,
you're seeing it on all different levels. But
yeah. So it's cool though, because I think, wow, I get the chance to influence 5 young minds, and like I get to teach them this way of life. And you know, there are times I think we all as parents wonder if we're doing right by them or whatever, but I really can't imagine not doing this work and like not being home with them to raise them and not teaching them, like, you know, like the other day I was pouring, like these are called agar plates when we have mycelium and stuff on them. And I was teaching my son how to pour them, you know, and it's simple. It's just agar powder and a little bit of potato flakes and honey, and they feel like really cool getting to mix it. And we teach them like basic science, and so I like to believe that they're getting just a really unique custom experience, so.
One thing I really had to convince myself of, because I shared that I had lost my dad, but I lost my dad a couple times in my life. And one of them was he was incarcerated for LSD. So when I found out that I was pregnant, I was so scared that I would carry on that pattern and my son and I would be separated for my lifestyle, because I was doing trip sits at that time, taking people on field trips. It was a crazy time. Great. Beautiful, but I was just as happy to be pregnant as I was scared to continue that lifestyle. So for a while I pulled back. That's when I went to nutrition school and all that, but still at the end of the day, the only thing I wanted to talk about was this, psychedelics and how they could help you change people's minds, change the world. And I was just so passionate about it, and the way I got my mind around it to continue was, okay, I am this kid's mom for a reason. My only job is to be his mom, and to do that is to be myself and the best version of myself as possible. If I was to be anybody else, then why would I be his mom? Then somebody else would have been their mom, or whoever's giving me the advice, or whoever's telling me I was a bad mom. It's like, whatever, you guys want to think that, or whoever's out there that maybe is thinking about anything. It's like, no, it's my son. He was my gift, not yours. You would have been his mom if that was the advice I was supposed to follow. If that's what it was that he needed, then you would be that mom, but you're not. I am. And I had to take on that responsibility, and that mindset shift is really what carried me to here, because there was a lot of fear that came in those moments, but I made it through, and now it's the same. I have him home with me. I couldn't imagine it any other way. Homeschooling is probably one of the most difficult things in the world, being a parent is. But, it's at the same time, I wouldn't have it any other way. No matter how challenging it is, I learned so much about myself, about, I didn't have much of a childhood, so, I'm learning how to tap into that and how to feed that inner child of myself through him. It's beautiful.
Parenting is, we don't talk about this enough in this country, or in general, everywhere. Parenting is extremely trauma. It forces you to confront your trauma, is what I'm trying to say. Like you will be reparenting yourself alongside of your small child. And sometimes you will think that their emotions are more in control than yours, and that's okay. And, and it's like you said, I feel like we are our own worst critic of our parenting. And that's something I have to give myself more grace in sometimes, because my indoctrination comes through sometimes too. Am I living, I'm living authentically, but is that living recklessly, right? So I have been having that kind of dialogue in my mind, but it's wild, because it brings me back to this whole idea of I'm having a mini panic attack over fungus, over something that grows in the wild.
Yeah.
And then I'm back to okay, because I just know how absurd that sounds and is.
Yeah.
So,
it grows naturally everywhere, and they're like, oh, well, we can't stop it from growing. So instead, what we'll do is demonize it and say it's going to kill you, it's going to harm you, don't go around the mushroom, death caps, this, that. It's like, Amanita is great. Every mushroom is magical, just some only once.
I swear, and we're living in a time where oh, you don't like something? Just cancel it. Just cancel it and just throw some mud on it. It's not there no more. And we do this with people, we do this with things, we do this with foods, we do this with restaurants, brands, and it's a wild time, because just to take it back home, guys, we're all on a floating rock in the sky, So try to be happy on this weird little journey, and be okay with being weird. That's my best advice. Like, if you feel weird and you're hiding your weird, it's gonna feel weird. So that's my last advice for you guys. Keep it weird.
I love it. Right. How about we cut to another commercial break? We'll have our sponsors share some more about what they're up to. And then when we come back, we'll let everybody know what it is that you're doing now, how you're helping people, and how they can reach you.
Sounds good. All
right. We'll see you in a couple minutes.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
Who has huge buds? You do. If you shop at BMA Hydroponics, attend one of BMA's educational seminars and learn the secrets of growing, harvesting, processing, and consuming quality cannabis and cannabis products. Learn how to make better extracts, edibles, and medicinal creams at prices you can afford. Visit BMA Hydroponics at 404 Maitland Drive, Belleville, or call 613-967-9888.
The only way to go.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
PACE Radio is the People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio Network.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
Did you know that the Pace Radio Network isn't just a radio network? That's right, because most, but not all of our programming is now done via video and is then podcasted at paceradio.net. So if you want to watch our programming, you'll find us on the Pace Radio Network's Facebook page, plus the show's own page, and you'll find us live on the network's YouTube channel. And don't forget, you can find it all, video and audio, at paceradio.net. You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
All right.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. Welcome back, Crystal. I'm really looking forward to hearing more about what it is that you're doing today. Like, we know a bit of your story now, how you started on mental health medications with these crazy diagnoses, ending up getting into cannabis and cannabis cultivation, then mushrooms, and now working with other types of entheogens. Where are you more now? Where do you see yourself going, and how are you helping people today?
So I really was taking some time at the end of last year to reflect on where I want to be at the end of this year. And so I've been doing some professional things, like getting an LLC underway and, building, not building so much. I spent a lot of my last 2 years in my phone networking with people, and I love that part. Okay. But it was when I had younger babies and I could kind of do it a little bit more. And now everybody's aging up. So I have to be much more hands-on and off my device and more networking in the evenings, kind of things. Right. So for me, I'm doing more genetics work and more cultivation work and working on ramping up for more steady numbers and working with different genetics. I kind of briefly touched on that earlier, but starting this Wood Lover project is really going to kind of set me apart in this niche industry, because a lot of people are only working with cubes. So the first time that I kind of uplifted my work, I added lion's mane and shiitake and some other gourmets to my mix. So that way I know I don't have to source mushrooms from anyone, right? And so I wild forage my chaga here. It's a great great area for chaga. So I'm very chaga blessed. So, you know, learning to be resourceful is something else that I'm doing in the daily. So, an example, you have to soak your grain before you're preparing it for mushroom spawn. And so I'm like reusing that water to water my plants, my cannabis plants, or I'm using that water to make liquid culture. You know, so just adding sustainable practice into my entire rotation and uplifting it that way, because you get to like basically feed your plants and then they're eating the same stuff that my mushrooms are. And I'm hoping that I can get more symbiotic growing going on here, where I have mushrooms growing in the same pot as my cannabis. And so that's what I'm working for. But, you know, I today I am about to do some agar work, which I'll be doing some isolation of some strains. And I will also be doing some pouring, some plates. And I gotta clean out some mushroom totes. Isn't that fun? That's not the fun part of this work, I'll add. It's terrible to do. And you need a very large sink or a bathtub, like in my case. So, you know, it's fun because cultivation pushes you as a person and like teaches you lessons about you while you're doing it for the plant or whatever you're growing. And so, like, one thing I'm really struggling with right now is I'm not as active as I want to be. So, like, I'm constantly reminded from cultivation right now, please make time for yourself, Crystal, to go lift some weights, because carrying buckets of water is not good for your back, right? So, like, that's a funny one. But, like, the other lessons are, like, in, like, when flushes happen, right? And maybe it's a really abundant outcome and you're really blown away, right? You get a moment to really sit with yourself and see, like, wow, like, nature is really going to shine if you just let it be nature. And that's just a beautiful lesson about all of us, you know? So find the lessons in your growth.
Yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful. I remember when I was growing mushrooms and I got to eat them for the first time. I was really excited to try it. Like, what does it taste like fresh? I didn't have that experience of going out foraging for them. When I lived in BC, I wasn't, that wasn't my priority, even though I know that they're there. And so, yeah, I was like really excited, get my first kit and do this. But before I even ate it, I'll tell you, just looking at it, I was like, this is like an umbilical cord to the universe. I was like, just in so much awe. I was like staring. I was like, in my first blood, I was like, it came up with the moon cycle too. I was like, this is a blessing from Mom and Nate. I was like, just so enthralled that I couldn't even believe it.
Yeah. That's awesome. It came up with the moon cycle. That's really cool, actually, first of all. They do come alive. They love the moon. It's weird because now that you're saying this, I do notice a pattern with the lunar cycle and my mushrooms. So I'm going to be noting some things on that now. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Even when you get the second, third flush, and sometimes you even get like 5 or 6, anybody who's interested in this, contact Crystal, get in our network. There's conversations about this stuff often. But yeah, the moon cycles, I noticed that the flushes, when they would come back, it would be, which I didn't even know. I thought you got one and then you're done. No,
isn't
it
that
comes back and comes back. It's amazing.
So cool. Yeah, they flush multiple times, and you know, I've seen them go as many times as 8. So
wow.
It's crazy because it'll depend on even the phenotype you're working with. So, you know, I can help you find cultures if you feel pulled to them. You know, I think that's one of my specialties, is pairing people with cultures or telling them about the culture and, you know, explaining them to them. And I'm a very sensitive person, so like I can tell you how it'll make you feel, like body load versus mental load and things like that. And so if you're looking for microdoses, if you're, looking for information, data that supports, any type of thinking, can help you there too. I do a lot of consulting with people. So like last year I sold a lot of kits. I'm not really selling so many kits this year as I am supplies. And then I kind of just like walk people through it, or you can, pay for an hour of consultation with me too. Usually if you buy the supplies, I'll teach you for free is kind of how I do it, because I really think people need to know how to grow their medicine at home. So it's like just to touch on it, how was your experience eating a freshie versus a dried boy?
Tasted like an actual mushroom, like I could cook with it. I started remembering, my aunt used to actually make mushroom soup for people. I was so young, but now I understand why, and I had this memory, like I didn't realize magic mushroom soup, like I didn't put it all together until that moment. I ate it, and I was like, oh, that tastes like a regular mushroom, and then I started having these memories of her. Oh my god, it's funny, but you could do anything. Like I could imagine doing in huge supply. I dried mine out though, and I do normally have them dry. I make blue honey out of it usually.
Yummy.
That way I can microdose, and I, instead of the capsule form, I just do like a spoonful, and it's so good. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, the honey is, so it's funny because for whatever reason, the honey hits me like a bus. Like it'll put me to sleep no matter how much I have. And so I've been wondering why that is, but it must just be my unique form and its response, but I wake up so rested and I have the best lucid dreams I've ever had. So I do like the honey a lot too. It's really yummy.
Maybe the communication part is through the dream work. That's one of the reasons why I like it too, is mushrooms are great at connecting us to other plants, connecting us to ourselves, connecting us to the people in our lives. But bees, they're the great communicators. So when you have the connections and the communication, it does dance together pretty well. But dream work's also very important. So that's a big part of it on your path as a witch.
I swear, right? And I laugh so hard because like I remember being a kid and watching like, what was that show called? Charmed. Do you remember the show? Oh yeah. And I was like, when I grow up, I'm gonna be Rose McGowan. Like I am gonna be Rose McGowan. Oh yeah.
Here we are in our 30s. Charmed AF.
Yeah. I'm embracing it because I keep finding the use, and like, thank you for giving me an enriching, meaningful hour of time today, because like, all we have is time. Like time is our most valuable resource. And ultimately, we live in a time where we don't get much dispensable time, right? And so I think entheogens almost distort our time continuum in a positive way too, and it makes us slow down and be more grateful and accepting of where we're at. So I wouldn't be here if I didn't take a chance on a mushroom. And so if I ever see someone who's should I try this, it's gonna be yes. Indefinitely, always, yes. And now I see my son is ready for me. So
thank you so much, Crystal, for being here. I'm going to share your contact information below, but if you want to tell everybody how to reach you, that would be great too.
Yeah, so if you want to go ahead and reach me either on Signal, on Telegram, or Wicker. Wicker, I'm Yooper Jane. Telegram, I'm Yooper Jane. And Signal, Yooper Jane. So you can find me on any of those three.
Thank you so much. I'll definitely add you in as Yooper Jane so everybody can find you better. I have everybody saved differently. So I'm using real names. It's just natural. But yes, you are a gem. And I'm so grateful.
Thank you. So are you. You have a nice day.
You too. Bye, buddy.
Bye-bye.
What's up? This is Jasper from the Fungi Academy for another special lesson of After School. And today we're gonna find out if mushrooms are actually controlling us. So let's start in space.
Space is really hard to survive. It can be scorching or freezing. Ultraviolet and cosmic radiation is everywhere. Radiation is basically the only thing that is present in the vacuum of space. Yet, some organisms can survive this vacuum. The microscopic animal known as the tardigrade is able to survive a journey to space for 11 days and still be alive and kicking after landing back on Earth. Just for your information here, humans can't do that. Without a spacesuit, all the air gets sucked out of our bodies. You pass out in 15 seconds and be dead in 90 seconds. But tardigrades are nothing compared to some of the organisms that life has been exposing to these extreme conditions. Life is the lichen and fungi experiment on the International Space Station, and most of what they do is put things in space and see how long they can hang out there without dying. Lichens are complex symbiotic organisms made up of a fungus and an alga or cyanobacteria. The fungus makes up most of the body, while the alga and or cyanobacteria provide the whole organism with food through photosynthesis. This collaboration between fungi and plants is so successful that it is thought to have evolved independently from each other more than 5 times over the eons. One of the toughest lichens out there is known as Xanthoria elegans. More than 71% of specimens of this species survived for more than 1.5 years, bare naked in space. That's not all. This Xanthoria elegans is also able to survive a pressure of at least 50 gigapascal. This means that this super strong being could survive the first and second phases of the interplanetary transfer process. Wow, lots of complicated words, but why is this important? Because this evidence suggests that life might not have originated on Earth at all. Our planet might just be substrates that is inoculated by the fungi. This concept is called PANSPERMIA. PANSPERMIA has many different philosophical approaches. Sometimes I like to fantasize that fungi and their spores are biotechnology engineered by an ancient alien civilization wanting to spread life all over the universe. Anywhere the conditions are just right. In my mind, they created a massive machine producing countless spores aimlessly wandering in search of a substrate to inoculate. A somewhat more plausible idea is lithopanspermia. Lithopanspermia proposes that extremophile life could survive being blasted into space after its home planet was slammed with an asteroid and part of the crust was shot into space after the collision. After such a cataclysmic event, the fungus and its spores would find themselves flying through space on this most low-tech of spaceships, a simple rock we know as an asteroid. This asteroid could hit a planet in its own solar system, but given enough velocity, it could potentially escape the orbit of its sun and roam its galaxy until one day, bam! It hits a young planet ready for life to flourish there. Alright, I might go really far out here, but I don't think that even the hardy Xanthoria elegans will survive such a long trip to space. But its spores just might. Fungal spores can be considered the nearly indestructible cousin of plant seeds. Microscopic little safes filled with DNA that can easily survive space. So much so that the International Space Station is actually facing a mold problem. Marta Kurzau, a microbiologist at the German Aerospace Center, tried to fix the problem by blasting the Aspergillus mold with, and I'm quoting here, stupid amounts of radiation. Up to 1,000 gray. That's 200 more times more radiation than a human could survive. But simply surviving radiation isn't enough to be an interstellar or intergalactic space traveler. You need to be able to not die.
when you think about it, in your visual landscape with animals, you see them for months, years, and plants. So you have a familiarity factor. But mushrooms that come up and disappear in 4 or 5 days, some of them can feed you, some can kill you, some can heal you, some can send you on a spiritual journey. So to have something so powerful and yet so ephemeral, it's natural for humans to avoid that which they don't understand out of fear because they don't know the difference. But 23 primates consume mushrooms, humans being one of them. And so that speaks to a long ancestral use of mushrooms going back, in our primate evolutionary tree for a very, very long time. We separated from fungi 650 million years ago.
Maybe you did, dude. I know some people that are probably still.
Well, basically, we are descendants of fungi.
Yeah.
We share more common ancestry with fungi than we do with any other kingdom.
And fungi are closer to animals than they are to plants.
Animals came from fungi.
Whoa.
You and I are actually fungal bodies.
Oof.
I'm speaking to basically another fungal body right now.
Okay.
And from a cellular point of view, under the microscope, human cells, animal cells, and fungal cells are very, very similar. We exhale carbon dioxide, we inhale oxygen. And it's really interesting that the many of the bacterial diseases that infect fungi also infect us. Our best antibiotics against bacteria come from fungi, penicillin being the obvious example. But, the universe was created about 13.8 billion years ago from the Big Bang. The Earth coalesced out of stardust about 4.5 billion. The earliest records of life we have is about 3.8 billion years ago, single-celled organisms. But just recently in lava beds in South Africa, they found mycelium infused through the lava 2.4 billion years ago. Now, we split from fungi 650 million years ago. And then in Brazil this past year, they found a fully intact, apparently a fossilized mushroom published in Nature, which is a very, very reputable scientific journal. And that one is 1.4 billion years old. So the oldest multicellular organism in the fossil record today is this fungus in lava in South Africa 2.4 billion years ago. A fully formed mushroom who had its form was growing 1.4 billion years ago. We separated from fungi 650 million years ago. Mushrooms have had their form longer than we have had our form by more than 1 billion years. So, but think of that. Mushrooms had their form before we had ours.
Yeah.
These are elders. These are ancient organisms. These are the overlord underlords of our ecosystem. And I suspect, and as these neural networks, they have more neural connections in the mycelial mass. There are over 1,000 acres than we have in our brain. They are actually accumulating not only genetic intelligence, but I think that as time goes on, I hope that we will be able to interface with them, because I think that there is many benefits of us communicating with mycelium that can give us rapid responses to catastrophia. That's how they've evolved. And we're now the biggest walking catastrophe that I know, walking across the planet. And we need to engage these fungal allies for the benefits that we need to put into play in order to prevent the loss of biodiversity.
It seems like a communication gap would be very hard to bridge. The communication gap, I mean, if we really did find a way to communicate in some form with mushrooms, like the concept of language, like you were talking about, just the idea of nature and intelligence and these words that we have these sort of concrete definitions in our head that don't really apply to some things that are very, very confusing to us, like the idea of fungal intelligence, the idea that you could somehow or another understand the language that these things, we don't even understand dolphin language, right?
Well, one classic example, Japanese are so clever at this. There's a slime mold, called Fusarium polycephalum, and they had and this slime mold is very, very good at navigating through mazes and challenges. I mean, first to food wins. The conservation of energy, is rewarded. So
how do they set this up? They put a little bit of it.
They did several experiments. The most fun one is they designed a nutrient, basically a nutrient-like maze, replicating Tokyo in the Japanese subway system. And so they started with Tokyo, and they put oats, which is a nutritional source. They inoculated what is on this basically an agar map with all the major cities, the nodes around Tokyo, and they then each of those nodes had a piece of oat on them, which was a source of nutrition. The main oat was where Tokyo was. They inoculated it, and then they let the slime mold then grow. And first it grew out randomly, exploratorily, just like you would do if you're a hunter or something. You're hunting on the landscape looking for things. And then after about 28 hours, it reorganized itself in the most efficient way possible and reorganized the Japanese subway system in a more efficient manner than it's designed today. Thus, they said, not me, not Paul Stamets, this is a demonstration of cellular intelligence.
Whoa.
So this is the tip of the proverbial mycelial iceberg. This has broad implications. And I just want people to suspend their disbelief. And this goes into actually the evolution of human consciousness. And Terence McKenna was a good friend of mine. I love Terence. I especially loved him the last 5 years of his life because he made fun of himself so much. Terence and Dennis both came up with a stoned ape theory. Now, it's not a theory, it's a hypothesis. A hypothesis is speculative, but cannot necessarily be as not yet proven. A theory is a hypothesis that has been tested and proven with facts. So I disagree with them in saying it's not a theory, it's a hypothesis. But the hypothesis of the stoned ape, which I think you've alluded to before, is that with climate change and as the savannas increase in our primate ancestors, massively resilient, adaptive organisms, so powerful, so important. Reality is not limited to the perception that we have traditionally used.
Fungus.
Some of them can feed you, some can kill you, some can heal you, some
fungus.
Some of them can feed you, some can kill you, some can heal you, some
fungi. Lucid dreams.
Stay there. Reside there.
Lucid dream.
Listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20, it's so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partner 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420 enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyndonega Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.